Good evening and welcome to the closure session of the 5th International Conference on Natural Resources and Sustainable Management. Excellency President of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Mr. Ersin Tatar. Excellency, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey, General Vice President of AK Party, and Honorary President of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Binali Yıldırım. Dear Deputy Minister of the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, and the President of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Mücahit Demirtaş. Dear Deputy Minister of the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, Mr. Akif Özkaldı. The 25th and 26th term former Member of the Parliament in the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Professor Dr. Ruhi Ersoy. Dear President of the Turkish Maritime and Global Strategy Center and a former Rear Admiral, Associate Professor Cihat Yaycı. Dear Director General of the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, Mr. Murat Zekeriya Aydın. Dear Deputy Director General of the Republic of Turkey, State Hydraulics Works, Mrs. Şadiye Yalçın. Dear Rector of the Bacon University, Istanbul, Turkey, Professor Dr. Murat Ferman, representing for the university rectors. Dear Professor Dr. Tarzan Legovic from the Libertas International University, Zagreb, Croatia, representing for the scientific committee. Dear ASD Group Chairman of the Board of Directors and the respected member of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Serhan Aldoğan. Dear Honorary President of the Conference, and the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Near East University, Professor Dr. İrfan Suat Günsel. The Dean of the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering of Near East University, and the Chairman of the Energy, Environment and Water Research Center, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş. After a long time preparation and 5 consecutive days of presenting valuable research from distinguished scholars, we have come to the end of the conference. The conference aimed to provide worldwide specialists, scholars, and researchers that are engaged in related fields a chance to exchange the latest research results and advances and to establish an international friendship. We hope that the conference has achieved its purpose and that it will be useful to many scholars, researchers, and the community. In the closing ceremony of the conference, Your Excellency President of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Mr. Ersin Tatar, the Excellency former Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey, General Vice President of AK Party, and Honorary President of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Binali Yıldırım, and the President of the Conference, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş. They have shown the courtesy to share a message with us and to our audience of the conference. Before inviting our distinguished guests, firstly, I would like to share a short video of what happened at the NRSEM 2021 in the last week.
The 5-day conference gives a gold standard interdisciplinary platform and ideal environment to develop new collaborations and opportunities for research and academic forums. We have 103 keynote speakers from 22 countries around the world, researchers from more countries and over hundreds of the universities. In addition to that, more than 70 universities from around the world are supporting the conference.
Kültür kodlarında, Türk medeniyetinde ekoloji, çevre insanla bir bütündür. Ve Türk kültürü, Türk destanlarında, Türk mitolojilerinde insanın, tabiatın bir parçası olduğunu ifade eder.
Yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının elektrik enerjisi üretimi amaçlı kullanımına ilişkin kanunun çerçevesinde yenilenebilir enerji tesisleri için teşvik mekanizmasını uzun bir süredir uygulamaktayız.
It's known that the consumption rate of fossil fuels is much more than the production rate of the nature of these sources.
Furthermore, states should consider sustainable development as an approach in their national plans. Also, they should consider the principle of sustainable development in the national laws and international agreements.
Avrupa Birliği'nin uygulayacağı sınırda karbon vergisi yerine kendi emisyon ticaret sistemimizi kuracağız. Yeşil alan ve ekolojik koridor sayı ve alanımızı millet bahçeleri gibi kalıcı eserlerle çoğaltacağız.
Air temperature, it's almost coincides the global temperatures. But after these years, last 20 or 30 years, the temperature
Mostly, it looks like clean energy refers to zero or low carbon emission. Renewable energy sources like solar or wind certainly regarded as clean energy sources, but in some definitions, nuclear energy, which is our focus, is also counted as clean.
The solution is something which is not very palatable or not welcome for most of the world's economy, and that is to reduce energy consumption very, very drastically. There's no other way to do this.
But the scientific world always sticks to dust transport itself. I mean, if you look at this dust transport, all right, if you measure the size, area, you can do it easily because you lose the signature of dust when it mixes with the clouds, as you can see here. The dust is still propagating, but we cannot see it because the cloud masks the dust.
The complexity of rainfall estimation in the region suggests the requirement to consider other variables such as temperature and mass movement and land cover vegetation to better understand the influence of this parameter on rainfall.
Since there are non-stationary inherent in climatic variables, temporal features as well as seasonal attributes are encompassed in such time series. So we should detect the dominant periods by a tool and its wavelet here for us.
Science diplomacy can provide the initiation of very big cooperation and collaborations between the universities.
To mitigate or eliminate the negative impact of the drought and water scarcity. So these are the typical suggestions, but very important to recall here also to improve the water availability, monitoring and drought impact assessment.
When we use bottom-up approach, our idea is to find tipping points of the system, where and under, let's say, which combination of changes in flow regime or which combination of changes in temperature and precipitation, our system becomes vulnerable. So we have actually used this information to talk to stakeholders and decision makers that regardless of if you believe or you're using climate models, we find these vulnerable conditions of the system, and we try to improve the performance of our management to reduce the consequence of these activities or these events that might happen in the future.
Uneven water resources in northern Cyprus, we have to consider this one. And overuse of groundwater, we have to consider this one. And maybe next studies, water losses in the region are very high.
The modeling results were also used as a base through a combined geological hydrogeological approach to map the potential groundwater recharge zones and to propose suitable type and location for MAR systems.
If we list what are the key pressures in the coastal ecosystems here, is the first, the chemical and microbial pollution from the different sources, from the ship traffic, from the anthropogenic activities, etc. And the increasing marine transport is adding another complexity to the system.
But the bottom line is these findings by Loess paint a pretty clear picture that in most every water in Europe, and I would say probably around the world, one will find emerging contaminants. So these emerging contaminants are a challenge because the large area of contaminants that are being involved, the chemical structure is different, their environmental behavior is significantly different, so it is quite difficult to find a silver bullet. I would say there is no such thing as a silver bullet to address all these compounds.
We need to change the way we look at wastewater. Instead of looking at it as a problem, we may also look into the resources that are contained in this wastewater.
With clear water, with the runoff from the non-point source, also can give eutrophication like this. So it's very saturated with the nutrients that can give this eutrophication.
We need the absorbent material with high efficiency, easy in application, but low cost. And then also, the most important thing is the local materials should be available. So the absorption with low-cost absorbent is the best solution, I think.
50% of evaluated marinas have shown improvement due to installation of wastewater treatment plants that were actually presented to marina managers. And another 20% retained good sediment quality status.
Reducing the impact of climate change on water resource is absolutely necessary to increase the durability of economies and ecosystems.
Significant changes in resource replenishment, which may be expected by natural and anthropogenic adverse impacts, can be identified as severe repeated droughts and extreme weather events.
The pesticide exposure has been proven in a result of the health effects, for example, immunosuppression, hormone disruption, reduced intelligence, reproductive distortion, and cancer. The impacts of pesticides are also categorized into chronic and acute health effects.
The quality of most of the quality is located for surface water, the meaning that very contaminated water is a problem for futures. And then if you look at what is the source, where this coming from, this kind of the contamination, as you see that agriculture is a big problem. You know that most of the agriculture, they use many pesticides, many chemicals, but still is the affected groundwater system. This is very critical, therefore we have to really educate it very well, the agriculture sectors. And then you see that the other one come from the wastewaters, solid waste, and then some husbandry.
Reducing water loss in irrigation system also. Our targets increasing irrigation efficiency to 55% by 2024.
Indeed, we need to improve productivity in the agriculture sector, which are urgently needed, such as extensive reconversion of gravity irrigation to drip irrigation, and adapted crops that are water efficient and more resilient to climate change.
We can't transfer water, of course, from this dam to the other dams because all other dams will be full. So, fats, gabes, etc. And actually, we transfer water from the extreme north.
Then the services that we get from the marine system, the ecosystem services, are also being affected. And these services that benefit from the marine ecosystem can be categorized under three.
Dünyada atık suların %80'inden fazlası arıtılmıyor ve yaklaşık 1,8 milyar insan herhangi bir arıtım süreci geçirmemiş suları içmek zorunda kalıyor. Bu da temiz olmayan su ve getirdiği sağlık sorunları ve bundan kaynaklı ölümler. Yine dünyada kadınlar ve kızlar genelde aileleri için her gün tahminen 200 milyon saat mesafelerden yürüyerek su taşıması yapıyor.
Value-creating companies are more prone to engage with the customers
and with their business partners when they talk about sustainability.
Removing borders to access education, to give all members of the society a fair chance to learn and develop their skills and to participate in social, economic, and political life. Inclusion and equity in education and training are vital to ensure a transformative education and the right to quality education and learning throughout life based on principles of non-discrimination, gender equality, and equal opportunity for all must be ensured.
We need the guidance of science, not so much the wisdom from academia to enhance, to encourage, to enforce the future shaped under much more environmental friendly understanding and applications.
Hello and welcome back. To give his closing speech, I would like to invite the President of the conference and the Chairman of the Energy, Environment and Water Research Center, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş.
Excellency, President of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Ersin Tatar. Excellency, the former Prime Minister of Republic of Turkey, General Vice President of AK Party and Honorary President of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Binali Yıldırım. Dear Deputy Minister of Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, and the President of Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Mücahit Demirtaş. Dear Deputy Minister of Republic of Turkey, Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Mr. Akif Özkaldı. The 25th, 26th term former members of the Parliament in the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Professor Dr. Ruhi Ersoy. Dear President of the Turkish Maritime and Global Strategies Center and former Rear Admiral Associate Prof. Dr. Cihat Yaycı. Dear Director General of the Republic of Turkey, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Mr. Murat Zekeriya Aydın. The Deputy Director General of the Republic of Turkey, State Hydraulic Works, Mrs. Sadiye Yalçın. Dear Rector of the Beykent University from Istanbul, Professor Dr. Murat Ferman, representing for the university rectors. Dear Prof. Dr. Tarzan Legovic from the Libertas International University, Zagreb, Croatia, representing for the scientific committee. Dear AST Group Chairman of the Board of Directors and the respected member of the Turkic World Union of Engineers and Architects, Mr. Eren Başar. Dear Honorary President of the Conference and the Chairman of Board of Trustees of the nearest university, Professor Dr. İrfan Suat Günsel. Distinguished scientists, honorable statements, participants, gentlemen of the press corps, ladies and gentlemen, and all the dear ones who are attending the 5th International Conference on Natural Resources and Sustainable Environmental Management Conference. I thank you all for answering the call at the 5th International Conference on Natural Resources and Sustainable Environmental Management, where issues bothering our planet was discussed. During the 5 days of the conference, we have discussed issues related to climate change, water, environmental management, sustainability, and energy. Before we bring this conference to an end, I would like to highlight the conclusion and recommendation drawn from presentations and discussions made at this conference. Climate change. Average temperatures around the world are projected to increase significantly by 1 up to 2 degrees centigrade. These increases will be experienced the most during the summer months. As a result, there will be a decrease in total precipitation, mostly in the Aegean and Mediterranean coast, as well as in the southeast and eastern regions. The research outputs indicated that the number of days expected for a heat wave in some parts of the world is 2,000 days a year by the end of this century. With the rapid increase in heat waves, the risk of forest fires will increase and sea surface temperature. Climate forecasts suggest that precipitation and air temperature will decline in semi-arid regions, and that will influence the lake water availability and wetland ecosystems. Clean air is a vital prerequisite for enhancing public health, and with technological advancement, mobile application may play an important role in raising environmental awareness and implementing appropriate environmental action. Transportation has a significant influence on climate change, and while our society relies on these modes of transportation, attentive approaches are required to reduce carbon footprint. Flooding is caused by a variety of the variables, but climate change increases the likelihood of heavy rainfall because a warmer atmosphere can store more moisture, and floods and storms become more powerful. Water. Water as major input to all development sectors is crucial for us. However, its sustainability, temporal and spatial distribution has become a serious problem. In the last 5 days, our esteemed scientists across the world come up with different solutions based on their research outputs. The desalination, hydrologic real-time modeling, sound and equitable transboundary water management policies. Hydrogeological models that are the representation of real physical processes in the basin have promoted importance in sustainable managing of water that will associate with global climate change and population increments. Our honored researchers applied novel methodologies such as artificial intelligence-based models, ANN, AMPHIS, GE, SEVM, physical-based models, SWAT, SWAT+, GIS, PCD, CropWatt, AquaCrop. With climate change threatening freshwater supplies across the world, solar thermal desalination systems are a potential low-cost option to produce clean water. They can be used at various scales from small modular systems easily deployed in remote areas to large industrial scale systems that provide communities with reliable water supplies. Even though we have plenty of water resources, only a limited percentage is fresh and readily usable. This quality of this limited fresh water is depleted nowadays due to natural and anthropogenic pollutions. As a result, water is scarce for domestic, agricultural, and other purposes. To solve this problem and to help decision makers, different researchers have been conducted so far. In this regard, many scientific findings that can assist in solving the problem were presented at this conference. These studies conducted including drinking water quality analysis, wastewater treatment, reusing of it for different purposes, and water distribution network analysis. An example is application of solar power desalination of geothermal water for irrigation. The model predictions could be used to develop an integrated approach for the management and assessment of river and groundwater quality and quantity. To overcome the current and future freshwater scarcity, alternative solutions of water sources were recommended, namely rooftop water harvesting, reclamation of freshwater, wastewater, recycling, greywater, desalination of saline water. Energy. Energy is an essential component in our day-to-day life that could be used for heating up and cooling down different industrial devices and their systems. Manufacturing and processing industries are the backbones of the economical sustainability of developed and developing countries. However, the selecting of our energy source is important to the environment and natural resources sustainability. Therefore, it is important that we select our energy resources carefully. Energy and climate change are related in such a way that one is the factor to the other. Like climate, the challenge is a common global challenge, and also it is the main energy challenge. This is because about 2/3 of greenhouse gases emissions come from energy, particularly utilization of oil and burning of fossil fuels as an energy source contributes a major percentage of greenhouse gases. That is why the energy sector must be the most considered as an important parameter when dealing with global warming and global climate change. Research findings based on novel solution ideas and alternative energy source utilization mechanisms were suggested in this conference. A shift to renewable energy instead of non-renewable energy was the recommended solution. The other renewable energy alternatives suggested include hydropower, biomass energy, wave energy, clean nuclear energy, wind energy, and solar energy. It was also recommended to use an enhanced geothermal system that economically extract the viable amount of heat while reducing the emission of greenhouse gases. Nevertheless, initial investment cost, skilled manpower, political willingness, and technical feasibility of the clean and alternative energy source were concluded as limitations to adopt those alternatives. Environmental management, sustainable development goals. We cannot work on individuals' 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, partnership, and peace on their own. We need to work with the 5 Ps together to achieve universal sustainable development through innovation, co-creations, and collaboration. Our strategy should be focused on maximizing opportunities and minimizing disruption while leaving no one behind. To do so requires us to put accountability, transparency, and integrity at the core of our policy and program approaches. The Agenda to 2030, launched by the United Nations and its United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, is a key element of strategies in the industry. Industry contributes to a sustainable future with its innovations and new solutions for society. Industry supports the United Nations in the implementation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which create the framework for sustainable business practices at the economic, social, and environmental levels. Among other activities, BASF participates in United Nations Global Compact's action platforms conveying business, leading experts, civil society, governments, and United Nations partners to solve interconnected issues, explore new markets, opportunities, and innovate around the SDGs. The concept of blue growth will contribute economically without harming the nature of the island countries, especially in the undisturbed nature, and can provide a new framework for achieving sustainable development goals. Environmental education. Environmental education is effective on water awareness and water literacy. The environmental awareness and environmental ethical approaches of the civil servants can have a positive effect on the environmental attitudes of the public. Therefore, environmental education is important because by increasing the level of environmental knowledge, environmental awareness also increases. The importance of universities in terms of sustainable development goals and the impact of quality education was revealed. Environmental management. It is important to apply international environmental law with international cooperation to prevent environmental problems that affect the whole world, not a single country. Environmental crimes such as wild animal smuggling, tree slasher, poor waste management, overuse of water resources, destroy natural resources, damage flora and fauna, and affect the food chain. This situation reveals that serious attention should be given to the issue of environmental crimes. The necessity of increasing international cooperation on environmental crimes. In the context of sustainable development, it is important that the mechanism of policymaking policy implementation, data collection, and monitoring of collected data be applied effectively. COVID-19 has shown to all humanity that comprehensive and coordinated strategies need to be developed at local, regional, and global levels against possible new outbreaks with unknown pathogens. Examination of the human factor and social behavior models will enable to understand the damage caused by the anthropogenic factor to our planet and to reduce its effect, especially in recent years. Abandoned mine areas negatively affect agricultural production in that region and therefore the local economy. With the decommissioning plans to be prepared for the mining areas, it is possible to recover the degraded economies. The harm caused by pharmaceutical waste to the environment and living things can be controlled with the right regulations and practices. The implementation of policies in management of environmental problems, the collection of relevant data and monitoring studies are important for sustainable development goals. Climate action with new technology and mobilization like phone software for reducing air pollution, use bicycle and other innovative startup events. For example, the use of walking map for students at the university was decided to be implemented by the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering. In addition, the university has built the first electric car in Cyprus as part of its initiative towards zero emission and improving air quality. Thank you for your time and see you at the next academic events.
Thank you very much for the closure speech, Professor. Now I would like to share a pre-recorded video delivered to us by the Excellency, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Binali Yıldırım.
Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti Cumhurbaşkanı Sayın Ersin Tatar, konferansın değerli onursal başkanı Profesör Doktor Suat Günsel, konferansın düzenlenmesinde emek ve gayretleri olan konferans başkanı Profesör Doktor Hüseyin Gökçekuş, değerli bilim adamları, hanımefendiler, beyefendiler, değerli basın mensupları. Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti önemli ve güzide üniversitelerinden Yakın Doğu Üniversitesi'nin düzenlediği Uluslararası Doğal Kaynaklar ve Sürdürülebilir Çevre Yönetimi Konferansı'nda emeği geçen herkesi tebrik ediyorum. 5 günlük etkinlik boyunca 22 ülkeden 103 davetli 300 konuşmacı, dünyanın değişik yerlerinden araştırmacılar ve 100'den fazla üniversiteden bilim insanlarını katıldığı, Türkiye'den 3 önemli bakanlığımızın da destek verdiği, benim de onursal başkanı olduğum Türk Dünyası Mühendisler ve Mimarlar Birliği ve TÜRKSOY'un yanı sıra Türkiye'den ve dünyadan araştırma merkezlerinden de katılımların olduğu bu etkinlik, Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti'nin tanıtımı ve son yıllarda bütün insanlığı ilgilendiren sürdürülebilir çevre ve iklim değişikliğinin farkındalığının oluşturulması açısından hayati öneme sahip. Bu etkinlik boyunca bakan yardımcıları, genel müdürler, uzmanlar yaptıkları konuşmalarda Kuzey Kıbrıs'ta bu anlamda yapılan faaliyetlere dikkat çekmişler. Bu bağlamda da fiziken olmasa da video konferans marifetiyle kapanış oturumuna katılmak benim için büyük bir onur. Bildiğiniz gibi doğal kaynakların kullanılması ve çevre konusu bugün artık bütün insanlığı ilgilendiren önemli bir mesele haline gelmiştir. Sürekli mevsimlerin ani değişmesi, yaz ayında kış, kış ayında yaz, doğal afetler, seller, baskınlar ve bunun yanı sıra sürekli dünyamızın, atmosferin ısısının, sıcaklığının artması ileride büyük bir küresel felaketin habercisi gibi gözüküyor. Son 100 yıl içerisinde dünyamızı bu hale gelmesinde başta gelişmiş ülkeler olmak üzere herkesin ciddi anlamda sorumluluğu var. Öyle ki Paris Anlaşması'yla 2030-2050 yılına kadar hedefler ortaya konmuş ve dünyanın sıcaklığını her yıl 1 derecenin, daha doğrusu 10 yılda 1 derecenin altında tutmak için çok büyük tedbirler öngörülmüştür ve bunların da çok büyük maliyetleri var. Türkiye bakımından, Kuzey Kıbrıs bakımından olaya baktığımızda biz kişi başına karbondioksit salınımı bakımından dünya ortalamasının altındayız. 4,7 kilogram. Gelişmiş ülkelerde bu rakam 50 kilogramı aşıyor. Dolayısıyla çevre felaketinin sorumluları daha az gelişmiş ülkeler değil, daha fazla gelişmiş ülkeler. Dolayısıyla bundan sonra iklim değişikliğinin hızını durdurmak ve dünyamızı eski güzel günlerine dönüştürmek için ödenecek bedelin gelişmekte olan ülkelerden değil, gelişmiş ülkelerden tahsil edilmesi en adil, en doğru yol olacaktır. Esasen Dünya İklim Anlaşması'nın arkasındaki kavga da budur. Avrupa Yeşil Mutabakatı yeni bir süreç önümüze koyuyor. Şöyle ki artık çevre dostu ürünler ortaya çıkaranlar buna karşılık bir prim tahsil edecekler. Puanlarıyla birlikte bu maliyetlerinin karşılığını alacaklar. Böylece çevrenin daha sürdürülebilir halde tutulması için ortak bir mutabakat sağlanmış olacaktır. Amacımız ve bu toplantının amacının da bu konudaki farkındalığı oluşturmak, Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti ve Türkiye'nin bu konuda öncü ülkeler arasında yer aldığının bütün dünyaya duyurulmasıdır. Bir kez daha burada yapılan toplantının hayırlı uğurlu olmasını diliyorum. Ve özellikle Türk Dünyası Mühendisler Mimarlar Birliği'nin Kuzey Kıbrıs temsilci Profesör Doktor Hüseyin Gökçekuş beyefendiye ve ekibine gayretlerinden dolayı teşekkür ediyorum. Yakın Doğu Üniversitemizin böylesine güncel, önemli bir konuyu gündeme almasından dolayı da kutluyorum. Hepinize hayırlı günler diliyorum.
Thank you very much for your message, Your Excellency. As our final guest, I would like to invite Your Excellency to deliver the final statements at the 5th International Conference on Natural Resources, Sustainability and Environmental Management, NRSEM 2021. Mr. Ersin Tatar.
Thank you very much. I would like once more to congratulate Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş and the University for organizing such an important conference, as the whole world is now discussing how to avoid a disaster, how to avoid a catastrophe with regard to climate change. And with changing climate, as I say, the catastrophe and the disaster that is expecting in humanity. As we all know, with increasing heat waves, with increasing temperatures, we have seasonal changes, we have a lot of unexpected events, and we have therefore less rain, droughts, and heat waves, and some natural disasters, natural disorders, which affect the whole world including the Africa countries, including the developed world, including Asia, including America. Wherever you go, you will have problems. And with the melting of the icebergs in the poles, we could possibly have rising water levels around the seas, and that would lead to some land to be under the water, including some important islands in the world. Therefore, this is something that is to be stopped. This is something that humanity should do its best to stop all these unwanted, undesired developments. Therefore, we are having a lot of discussions, we are having a lot of conferences with regard to taking the right measures to stop this kind of activity. As Mr. Binali Yildirim, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey, has stated in his speech that I've just listened to, he is basically pointing to the fact that most of the carbon dioxide emissions, which are leading to all these disasters, are being done by the developed countries. The carbon dioxide emissions per capita by some of the developed countries exceed 50 kilograms, whereas in the developing countries, including Cyprus and similar countries, this is 1/10 of that, less than 5. Therefore, there are remarkable differences, and therefore the costs associated with taking these measures to stop emission, to stop this kind of catastrophe and undesired events, should be met by the developed countries who are wealthy, who have obviously abused their power with regard to industry, with regard to production, with regard to all the use of the natural resources, including oil-related products. Because it seems from expert opinions that oil and oil-related products and their usage lead to the carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere, which is causing this kind of damage to the sphere and basically to world climate, because it is leading to a lot of changing in temperatures. The world is getting more hot. The heat is increasing. They are talking about more than 2 degrees increase in heat in the last few years, and this can lead to more heat, which would really lead to disaster. Therefore, the human beings should do their utmost to stop this process, to stop heat increases, because unless we stop heat increases, the world will be in more and more disorder with a lot of catastrophe and disaster. Because as heat increases, as I've been telling you, the natural resources usage will lead to drought. With drought, we will have a lot of negative things, including a lack of rain, drought, and heat waves, natural disasters, and all the associated things with it. Therefore, it is recommended, and in this conference, I'm very happy to hear that we have had more than 300 experts participating from all over the world through video conferences. Their main message is that humanity should dramatically change to solar energy, to all other sources of energy which are clean, which are environmental friendly, and stop as much as we can to use oil, gas, and all the related oil products. Therefore, I would like to congratulate once more NRSEM University and the participants to this conference, because Cyprus is a developing island. Cyprus, especially with the universities that we are having here in the Turkish Republic, Northern Cyprus, we are having a lot of experts, a lot of people who are thinkers, who think about the human world, who think about humanity, who think about the future of the world. Therefore, out of a university from North Cyprus, to discuss such a major event, to contribute to the thought process, and to take measures, even in this country, to avoid such a catastrophe is something that we should be proud of. Therefore, I would like to congratulate once again the founder of the nearest university, Mr. Suat Günsel, for taking a very brave decision in establishing a car factory in North Cyprus to produce the car Günsel, which will be an electric car, and an electric car will obviously contribute to this process, because using electricity would mean that we will not be using as much oil and as much petrol as we have been using over these years. Therefore, with developing Cyprus, using an electric car will contribute to this process in regard to the for cleaner environment and to avoid heat increases. This obviously is something that should be done throughout the world. We should, as humans, talk about this. We should organize conferences. We should participate in a lot of discussions, and we should give the message, powerful message to the world opinion, that this is a very serious issue. This is not something that can be taken lightly. This is something which would affect our future generations, our sons and grandsons, and therefore, if we are going to give them a good life, at least a life standard that we have been enjoying, we should take drastic measures to stop all these dangerous developments. Basically, as I was talking in the first conference a few days ago, I did say that this is something which will include sacrifice. We should sacrifice as human beings now, so that our grandchildren and grandchildren live a more comfortable life. If we don't sacrifice, and if we continue to abuse the resources of the world that are with us now, that would lead to a lot of problems in the future, which would affect our offsprings. Therefore, the whole world should be alerted. The whole world should be alarmed. The whole world should take this issue very seriously, because on the whole, obviously there are leaders, there are experts, there are university professors, there are a lot of organizations that are very sensitive to the issue, and they are doing their best to stop all this. However, in general, what we are hearing is that although there are a lot of sensitivities, enough is not being done to stop all this. And even in this conference, I think there have been a lot of messages saying that although the world and especially the developing countries are aware of the seriousness of the issue, they are not ready to take serious measures to stop the activity which would lead to catastrophe, because they are obviously very much interested in their profit. They are very much interested in their successful activities, because they are earning a lot of money. Their share prices are very high in the stock exchange. Their worth is billions of dollars. Therefore, if they start taking measures to stop all this activity that is causing a lot of disaster in the world with regard to carbon dioxide emissions, that would immediately, as a result of higher costs, will lead to drop in their profits, and that drop in profits will reflect in share prices, and the worth of their companies will be adversely affected dramatically. But this is something that should be stopped. Their wealth is not of first priority. They're too wealthy anyway. They're worth probably a great portion of the whole world's wealth. Some of these very rich organizations, companies, and maybe individuals, they represent the gross national product of some of the poorer countries. Can you imagine one or two countries as a total is smaller than a big company, because that company is worth billions of dollars and even 100 billions of dollars. This is the magnitude of the whole scale. There are so important gap between poorer countries and the richer countries that this is something which is unsustainable. Why unsustainable? Because of this different gap, that kind of wealth is created, and this kind of wealth becomes a threatening issue. It threats the future of the world because the powerful, the rich, the resourceful, obviously, they are the ultimate responsible people for all this disaster, but they are not able to take measures because it's a self-defeating exercise, if I might say so. It's a self-defeating exercise. There's so much power, there's so much wealth involved in all this that they are not able to take measures to stop this catastrophe. Can you imagine the figures given to us? Developing countries like Cyprus, our contribution to the carbon dioxide emissions is not even 1/10 of the developing countries. If our emission is five particles, theirs is more than 50. Therefore, the whole world should recognize, should be alarmed to the fact that the responsibility of all this catastrophe, of all this disaster, is the most industrialized, more wealthy, and those countries who are enjoying the resources of the world. Therefore, they should pay for it. How would they pay for it? They should immediately, obviously, stop using oil and oil-related products which emit carbon dioxide and introduce maybe higher cost solar energy and environmental friendly energy based products so that we can see the heat increases stopping and leveling off and to save the whole world's future as a result of this. Therefore, this is a very important process, very important, very radical, very, in fact, threatening. In fact, the whole world is now talking about this. As a few weeks ago, we had a very important meeting in Glasgow where they discussed how to alleviate all this and how to design a future for the world. However, the message coming, the articles written out of the meetings is that there has not been satisfactory results because, as I've been telling you, the responsible countries who are the real participants, who are the real as a responsible people, are not able, are not willing to take the right measures because it is too costly for them. And it reflects in their costs, it will reflect in their share price, it will reflect dramatically in their wealth. But if we are talking about the future of the world, if we are talking about the future generations, and if we are talking about a safe future so that at least humanity enjoys what this generation has been enjoying, these are things to be done. Therefore, we expect all these conferences throughout the world to engage the world public opinion, to give us the awareness that this is something that should be, this is something that cannot continue forever. If this will continue forever, we will see a disaster, we will see a catastrophe, which can lead to really very undesired events, including extinction. I was watching a film last week where with dinosaurs, how they were extinct hundreds of years ago because of some unexpected events from the outer space. Therefore, things are of this magnitude, things are of this scale, threatening, very, very dangerous. Therefore, humanity should take the right decisions. To be able to take decisions, we need a very intense public opinion throughout the world. Therefore, these conferences are contributing to the development of a public opinion throughout the world. Such a public opinion that no one will be able to stand against it. Such a public opinion that will lead to, in a way, the consuming society, the consumers, to stop buying the services of big companies, of big production units, so that we as humanity will show them our attitude to what have they been doing. That we do not approve of their way of life. We do not approve their contribution to the world economy, because this is not a contribution anymore. As you contribute, as you produce, as you give products to the world consumption environment, you are in fact destroying the environment. You are destroying the world. Therefore, public opinion should be at such an awareness point that this will influence their attitude. This is what I can say. I cannot say anything more. Therefore, once again, as the president of the Turkish Revival Northern Cyprus, I would very much like to congratulate all these people who have contributed to this conference, who have contributed to give their opinion, their methods, and their views. Thank you very much to them. And I would also like to thank very much, once again, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçek for organizing this important meeting, this important conference, and also to the founding president of the Nearest University and all the staff of the Nearest University who have contributed very much to the organization of this conference. And this is something obviously of a prestige nature also for the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, with so many universities, with so many new ideas, and with so many new projects. Thank you very much for listening to me. All the best.
Your Excellency, Mr. President Ersin Tatar, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for showing the courtesy of delivering the closer speech for NRSEM 2021. Dear distinguished scientists and dear valuable guests, I now announce the end of the 5th International Conference on Natural Resources, Sustainability, and Environmental Management. Thank you for following us in the last week. I hope you all good health and well-being. Goodbye.
Catching a bus, never nothing when it's real, yeah.